In 2025, a team of Indian archaeologists dove beneath the Arabian Sea, not to find a city, but to return to an old one, the lost city of Dwarka. This wasn't just another dig. The operation was backed by Archaeological Survey of India and personally blessed by Prime Minister Modi himself. But why now? Why this site? And why Dwarka? Because 2 decades ago, sonar scans revealed something extraordinary under these waters. A buried grid, massive formations, man-made artifacts. But that discovery, instead of rewriting history, was buried until now. In December 2000, India's National Institute of Ocean Technology, NIOT, conducted a routine marine survey of the coast of Gujarat in the Gulf of Cambay. The objective was oceanographic data collection, seabed topography, sediment patterns, and water quality readings. But the sonar scan revealed something unexpected. The images showed a massive geometric structure on the seabed, not natural ridges or reformation, but straight lines, 90-degree angles, and a grid-like pattern. It stretched nearly 5 kilometers long and 2 kilometers wide. A formation of that scale with such symmetry immediately raised one possibility: that this was man-made. And the site's location added more weight to the finding. It sat precisely at the submerged confluence of 2 ancient rivers, believed to be the paleo-channels of the lost Saraswati and the other tributaries that once emptied into this coastal zone. In ancient time, this area was likely dry land, possibly even a riverine settlement near the coast before the sea level rose, because the currents in the Gulf of Cambay are among the strongest in India. NIOT couldn't send divers, so they used a mechanical dredger, a scoop-like tool, to extract samples from specific coordinates of the sonar grid. What came up confirmed their suspicions. The dredged material included worked stone tools, microblades, pottery fragments, semi-precious beads, and one key artifact: a heavily fossilized piece of wood. That piece of wood was sent for carbon dating, not just to one lab, but to 2 independent facilities, one in India and another in Hanover, Germany. The results were consistent. The wood dated back to approximately 7,500 BC. That meant this site, if confirmed as a settlement, would be over 9,500 years old. Older than Sumer, older than Egypt, and far earlier than the so-called Harappan beginning of Indian civilization. Even the pottery fragments and tools match the Neolithic profile found in early sites like Bhirana and Mehergarh, which were also dated to the same period in other parts of northwestern India. And yet, despite the consistency in artifacts, geography, and dating, the discovery was sidelined. No international follow-up, no textbook revision, no museum displays. For a moment, the story made headlines. Then it vanished. But the data was never disproven. The sonar scans exist. The carbon-dated artifacts exist. The geometry, the river mouth location, the material, they are all documented. So the question isn't if the site was real. The question is, why was it ignored? Let's forget sonar scans for a moment. Let's forget underwater grids, carbon dates, and debates. Let's just ask one question. Why did Krishna choose Dwarka? According to Mahabharata, Maushalya Parv, section 7, after repeated attacks on Mathura by Jarasandh, Krishna made a decision. He summoned Vishwakarma, the celestial architect, and instructed him to build a fortress city in a land protected by the ocean. The site chosen was Kushasthali, an ancient sacred region by the Western Sea, a place known even before Krishna arrived. The Bhagavad Puran calls it a palace rich in wealth and natural beauty, where rivers met the ocean and ships came from distant lands. This wasn't barren land. It was already sacred, already developed, already known. Krishna didn't build a city from scratch. He migrated his people to a city that had legacy and then fortified it, expanded it, and transformed it. That city was named Dwarka, literally the gateway. We know that the city Krishna chose was coastal. We know it had harbors, walls, and temples. We know it had maritime links. Ships sailed to and from it. And now we also know that 200 kilometers from modern-day Dwarka, a massive underwater city was discovered. A city that predates even the traditional Mahabharata timeline. So here's the argument. Simple, clear, and undeniable. Krishna didn't randomly pick a location. He went to a civilization that was already ancient. The 9,500-year-old city in the Gulf of Cambay wasn't just some lost city. It was part of the civilizational memory Krishna inherited, a sacred geography passed down through time. That's why he chose Dwarka. Because the coastline of Gujarat was already holy ground, already home to cities older than any known in history. Even the Skanda Puran describes Dwarka as a golden city, washed by ocean's waves, visited by sages and merchants alike, filled with gardens, palaces, and temples to the god. Golden city, ocean waves, trade. That's not fantasy. That's prehistory. So when Krishna chose Dwarka, he wasn't starting something new. He was preserving something old. And if you're still here, you are the kind of viewers this channel was made for. So take a second, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with one person who still believes India's story began in 1500 BC. Because together we are not just watching history, we are rewriting it. So, a civilization with knowledge, commerce, and cosmology, a network of ports, rituals, and sacred geography. And when the Mahabharata ends and the Yadavas perish, the Puranas tell us what happened. The sea, angry and full, swallowed the city 7 times, says some text. 7 submergence, 7 cities layered on over one another. We never believed it until side-scan sonar caught shadows beneath the waves. And this is why the 2001 discovery in Cambay was silenced. Because if this city is accepted, then Dwarka stops being a legend and becomes part of an unbroken civilizational chain that started 9,500 years ago. And if Dwarka is real, then so is Krishna, so is the Mahabharata, so is a past they have tried to bury for centuries. So ask yourself, if all of this was buried, why are they digging again in 2025? After 2 decades of silence, the Archaeological Survey of India went back under the Arabian Sea. But this wasn't just another expedition. Something had shifted. The reason was simple. Pressure had been building. For years, the underwater structures discovered in 2001 had been left unacknowledged, with no institutional follow-up. But as new genetic, archaeological, and hydrological evidence from across the Indian subcontinent continued to challenge the colonial timelines, it became harder to ignore what lay beneath Dwarka's water. And so, in February 2025, the ASI launched a new underwater mission, officially to reassess submerged remains of the coast of Dwarka and Bet Dwarka. But unofficially, they were returning to the site that could collapse the mainstream narrative. This time, the operation was led by Dr. Alok Tripathi, India's foremost marine archaeologist and additional Director General of the ASI. He was joined by a team of experts, including 3 women archaeologists, in what became India's most important underwater expedition in recent history. The focus wasn't just myth verification. It was methodical. The team began by surveying the area near Gomti Creek, close to where earlier sonar scans had shown submerged structures. Samples were collected from the seabed, including pottery fragments, coral-encrusted stones, and other materials embedded in sediment layers. Divers photographed and documented foundations, like blocks arranged in linear arrangement. These formations match the layout described in ancient text: a fortified city protected by the sea. But what made this expedition even more significant was timing. The excavation came in wake of renewed international attention on India's ancient past, after the rediscovery of the Saraswati's root, the Mahabharat's DNA bottleneck studies, and fresh reanalysis of Vedic texts as historical sources, not mythology. And most importantly, Dwarka wasn't an isolated anomaly. From Dholavira, a city known for its advanced water engineerings and Harappan scripts, to Lothal, one of the oldest known dockyards in the world, to Bhirana and Rakhigadi, inland sites dating back to over 9,000 years. The entire western region of India, especially Gujarat, was part of a civilizational corridor that had been urban, literate, and coastal long before Egypt or Mesopotamia. So Dwarka, rather than being a mythical exception, fits perfectly into this chain. And that's exactly why the 2025 findings matter. The artifacts retrieved this time weren't random. They followed the same pattern as earlier discoveries. But this time, they were photographed, geotagged, and analyzed in situ. According to Dr. Tripathi, the next phase planned is for winter of 2025, and it will focus on removing sediment layers and verifying the exact construction techniques used in these submerged foundations. If the architectural style matches Harappan or Proto-Vedic patterns or show continuity with earlier sites, it may become the first direct link between Krishna's Dwarka and India's lost coastal cities. If you have followed everything so far, from sonar scans and carbon dating to Krishna's migration and the 2025 expedition, then by now, one thing should be clear. We are not just talking about Dwarka. We are talking about rewriting the entire civilizational timeline. The 2025 discovery doesn't just reopen an excavation. It reclaims a civilization. For centuries, India was told when its history began. Now we are showing the world where it began and how far back it really goes. Dwarka is not a legend waiting for approval. It is the truth resurfacing with evidence. And if even part of the city is confirmed, the timeline of the world changes. So don't just watch history unfold, be a part of it. Subscribe and join a community that's not just decoding the past, but rewriting the future. Hit like if this truth matters. Share it if you're done letting others define our story. This is not mythology. This is memory. And memory is finally fighting back. This is our story of Bharat. And don't forget to ask your questions with hashtag AskHarryAnything. Drop it below and let's decode history of India together. This is Harry signing off. Stay curious.